I don't really get why that video blew up so much. Who cares? Why do you care? Nobody wants to learn Unity anymore. That was the first time that I had felt like genuinely discouraged. Some of us weren't happy with the podcast. For my most disliked video, I didn't contribute my fair share. The game that I have planned for 2025 could be revolutionary. 2024 in review. How did it go? Before we get started talking about the videos, I actually wanted to talk about the games that I worked on this year. So I have worked on 5 games. We have the chicken game, which was like a collectible game, sort of mixed with an RPG, where you go around collecting eggs and then chickens to build this chicken army to fight cows. Very imaginative game. And that was a collaboration with Cherry Makes Games. So I actually did make a video for it technically, but it was just a video clip. I was planning on making a video, like a full-on video of it, once I added in sound, because I just felt like it wasn't at a completed state without sound. I didn't end up adding sound into into the game, so so there was no video. But that game, if we had added sound, I think it would have been an okay game. The next game after this was a game called Endless Night, and that was actually a first-person shooter game without any guns. Interesting concept. The premise of the game was it was just a round-based first-person shooter where you were inside of an arena. Enemies would come at you, and then you just shot them. But in between rounds, you would get the option to upgrade yourself, so you could get more health, more damage, more speed. This game also did not have any sound. Man, sound is something that I skimp out a lot, huh? But my focus really for that project was the 3D assets. I got the 3D arms done and they were animated, and that was like the first time I had ever put anything that I made in 3D into a game. And there was some parts of the process that I'm not familiar with, like retopology. Still, it's pretty difficult. I think the texture quality on those arms were also not the best. I just added in some textures from Substance Painter. And then nails. I don't know if you could see the nails in the game, but you can't because there were none. So during that time, I was really driving to like learn more Blender. Jump the Bridge. Jump the Bridge was just a like casual like gliding game where you just go around and collect points, and that was done in 48 hours, but I worked on it less than 48. This was a first, by the way. 48 hours is the smallest game jam I've ever done ever. I think it ended up being okay. Visually, it was a little disappointing. I really wanted to focus on the visuals of that game, so I didn't really focus a lot on the heavy aspects of coding. So I think I got a nice skybox, and then that was just pretty much it. That was the extent of that. But 48 hours, and also I got voice actors in that game, so there's like a little cutscene. I added a cutscene in the beginning. Yeah, I mean, I think that was cool. And this one actually has sound. Also, I was looking back on this. I did not realize this. After I published Endless Night, the very next day, I published this game, Jump the Bridge. And I don't usually like hold a project, wait to upload it. Like once I'm done with the project, it goes up, you know? So I guess that means that I was working on both of these game jams at the same time, which actually, I guess I didn't really think about that. It doesn't feel like it, but I guess that is true. That was the case. Mochi Evolution. Mochi Evolution was a game that you go around completing mini games to feed your little mochi, your little pet. If you don't feed your pet, then the pet will go look out and search for other food. There's cats in the games also. The pet will eat the cat. The mochi will eventually turn into this big monster if it eats too many cats. Interesting factoid. This project was the first project that I did not work on the code. Asterisk, I actually did work on the code a little bit, but it was just for one system. It only took me like an hour to make. But I think this game in particular really suffered a lot because I was working multiple things at the same time. So I was working on these two separate things, which were taking up a lot of my time. And then I was also doing 3D, which was something that I still don't feel like I have that much experience in. So I only really did 3 things for that project. I got the little mochi done, I got the monster done, and then I animated it. And then I also got that one script done, but it was so small, insignificant. But that project I felt like was the first time that I ever was on a project where I didn't contribute my fair share. And I've never done that before. that wasn't great. I'll be honest. It just wasn't great. Because of that, in the beginning, when we were discussing ideations for the project and where it could go, I actually suggested a lot of things that I'll be honest, if I had more time to contribute to the project, I feel like everything could have gotten done super easily. I felt like none of it was really overscoping, but we had concerns from another person that was like, oh, hey, too much, you're overscoping. I was like, come on. I'm here, I could do it. I was not there, so I didn't do it and I couldn't do it. So we ended up only getting one of the mini games working, and then the other mini game was broken, but so disappointing. I wanted to continue working on the project after, so I asked around. I was like, hey, do we want to continue working on the project just to get it more polished? There was no interest in it from anybody, and I guess it's fair. Like, I didn't really do anything. That game, it just didn't end up doing too well, disappointing. And it was my fault. It was disappointing because of me, which is also disappointing. This project is a simulation cult game where your job is to get more cult members, and you just command them to get resources so they can survive. They just continue to grow in number, so they require more resources. It's very circular loop. For this project, I wanted to focus on learning this new technology called dots. I feel comfortable in dots now after completing that project, but the project itself didn't go well because for like 2 or 3 days, I was stuck on this one problem, and it had to do with the pathfinding. And usually pathfinding would not be an issue because Unity has its own built-in system with pathfinding, but dots does not work with pathfinding. So I was using a third-party solution to do pathfinding, and the third-party solution just wasn't working well with dots. That project was initially supposed to take a month, but then I spent 3 weeks out of that month just learning dots. I wasn't even working on the project. And then the last week, 3 days out of that week, I spent on figuring out the pathfinding. And then I had this really, this solution that was, thinking back on it now, thinking about a solution now, I know a way now that I could have done the same thing really quickly. So it could have been a 1 hour problem instead of a 3-day problem. But instead, I had to dive deeper into lower level programming, which I feel like is ultimately a good thing because I feel more comfortable doing stuff in lower level programming. The end product wasn't good, but I think it was also the reason for the most amount of growth I've seen in myself in programming in the past 2 years. Bittersweet. I wish it would have gone better. And then the video, we made a video sharing everybody's game with each other, and the person who I made the game for, he ended up not showing up, so I was not able to share my game. Blessing in disguise because the game wasn't good. It was just really disappointing. The whole Secret Santa thing was just, personally for me, it was just like disappointing all around, and some of it was my fault, but some of it was just like time zones, Those last 2 games, Mochi Evolution and God's Whisper, really disappointing. Those were the 5 games that I worked on. I released 3 videos on this channel. The first one was the reality of game development, and this one was released on my birthday. And this video was to promote Overscoped, which was a podcast that I also started this year, but I didn't launch it on this channel. It was a separate channel. I initially recorded the video talking about the Secret Santa that I didn't do this year, that I did last year. And that Secret Santa, it went much worse than this year's. So this year's was a little better. But last year, that was the first time that I had felt like genuinely discouraged with game development, and it was like, man, I was like struggling. So that video I recorded in December. I was editing it and I was like, probably not interesting. People probably don't want to hear about this. I'll be honest, that happens to a lot of videos. I will work on a video and go like, cut. Nah, it's not good. So that's what I did with that video. But then we had to put out a video to promote Overscope, and it ended up doing better than what I had expected. Like initially, I trashed the video just because I thought it wasn't interesting, It was interesting to see that. To this day, I don't really get why that video blew up so much. I was expecting it to get like 300 views or something, after that video. So I was thinking, why don't we try doing something with the same format of that video, but just talking about game engines, and actually really got inspired by this one YouTube channel, Moon Mantis Games. So if you're out there, Moon Mantis, just know You're the reason for my most disliked video. Just kidding. No, I'm not. Use this game engine in 2025. It's difficult to talk about this video because I feel like the biggest reason why I got so many dislikes is because I ended up at the end recommending Godot as a game engine if you want to learn how to get into game development. And at the time, there was that whole Godot drama. And then everybody was like, yo, what about disappointing? You didn't talk about the Godot drama. I was like, anyways, people were just talking about it in the comments. I was like, brother, who cares? Why do you care? It's so difficult to talk about this because I don't really remember anything that happened, really. I just know that it wasn't that big of a deal. It didn't change my recommendation. And then people were just upset that I wasn't talking about the drama. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it was my most disliked video because of the Godot drama. I made 3 other videos in the same format and I just didn't like the way that they turned out. So I stopped, and I don't know if I'm going to continue that format. I just didn't like the end product, you know? It happens a lot. The last video that I did was a 6 game devs do Secret Santa. That video was with everybody doing the Secret Santa and we were all just sharing our games. And initially I was going to do something bigger scope. I was having a lot of trouble with that video because, first of all, the intro that I made for the video, I thought it was not great. I thought it was really cringy. I sent it out to somebody. I asked like, hey, what do you think about this intro? I showed it to my brother. He thought it was fine, but I think it's really cringy. And then he was like, hey, I'll check it out in the morning. And then it was so bad. It was so cringy. He just never responded. He was like, Henry, this is so bad. I'm not even going to talk to you. I ended up scrapping that video. Another reason was because just like story wise, it left off on a really negative note because the experience was kind of negative. I'm not going to lie. Like it just was not a great experience, the whole thing. And it was something that I had started, like I had hosted. It just didn't go well. I didn't want to put that out like in Christmas for that type of video. So I ended up just cutting together the presentation where everybody was presenting their games. I thought the games were great. I thought everybody did a really good job on the project, but the video itself, I feel like didn't go well. And I think it was because of that last minute pivot. And yeah, it just didn't do well. I do think like all the games were really cool. Go check out that video if you want. Didn't do well, so maybe you won't like it. I actually posted 15 podcast episodes on the Overscope channel with Zeth and Kobe, and some of them had Maxi. A majority of them had Maxi, but Zeth and Kobe were in all of them. We had a few guests on. It was a pretty cool experience, and we had stockpiled a bunch of podcasts, and we actually cut some podcasts out just because some of us weren't happy with the podcast. I think in total we recorded like 17 or 18. I don't think we hit 20, maybe 17 or 18 or 19 different podcasts, but we all only ended up releasing 15 of them. We stopped. That was probably my fault. Just kidding. No, this probably was my fault. Guys, I thought we had a good stretch of videos, and I thought some of them were pretty good. But, you know, we didn't continue the project, so no more Overscoped. If you want Overscope podcasts, bother everybody about it. I'm just joking. Probably not going to happen again. Probably. And then I also have a second channel where I rebranded it. A lot of work to rebrand it to DevDog, which is just like a tutorial channel talking about game development tutorials. And it's really, I feel like the content itself is really valuable, but the video is not high quality. So it's really low effort videos. And I put out 6 videos this year. One of them was talking about Obsidian, which is an application I use for a lot of note-taking stuff. Another one was talking about Blender. Another one was talking about Get. That was the most recent one. And then I think 2 more were talking about just coding. I think anybody that knows me knows that I am like really passionate about learning. And I think it would be really cool to be a part of somebody else's learning journey, especially in game development. I wanted to explore doing that on DevDog. If it doesn't do well, I feel like I would still continue making those videos just because to me, it's important to have like that type of resource out there. And I know that other people have already made resources like that. Like there's a lot of big tutorial channels, and a lot of them like I used when I was learning. I think that having more of them, even if it's stuff that other people already covered, is only a good thing. So if it doesn't do well, doesn't matter. I just, I think it's important for those videos to be out there. All in all, this year, I feel like I grew a lot as a programmer, especially in the second half, the God's Whisper project, the Secret Santa project. I feel like it really pushed me in a way that no other project ever really has. And I felt like I really stagnated over the past 2 years in game development in terms of learning and growth. I obviously grew little by little with every project that I made, but I didn't feel like there was this like really big substantial growth like I had my first year learning game development. And now I would feel comfortable calling myself like an advanced programmer. Before, I wasn't too sure. I would say like intermediate, advanced. I don't know where I fall in that spectrum. And if you don't count like $15 that I made on Itch in 2023, 2024 was the first year that I made money doing game development. This was my third year. The first year I made money, and it wasn't a lot of money. It was like less than $5,000, I think. But I think that's pretty exciting. So I think that is also another big exciting milestone for me personally. This was a very, very like close to the end of the year thing. I'm actually still working on it right now. But I technically this year did make a Unity asset that you can go buy right now. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I'm planning on making like a whole marketing video, and I want to put it on the Unity asset store, but I need a video to put on the Unity asset store. But the Unity asset is complete. And yeah, I think overall this year, it had like a lot of ups and downs, but I felt like this year was okay. A lot of big leaps forward in some aspects, a lot of disappointing steps in other ways. So my plans for 2025, I mentioned that 2024 was the first year I made money doing game development. I really want to focus on that in 2025. I really want to be able to make this a sustainable thing, not just sustainable, but something that I can actually grow in. I know a lot of people have been talking about how 2024 has been like a really terrible year for game development just in general. I hope that doesn't continue into 2025, but I feel like a lot of that focus has really been on the really big guys like the AAA industries. Point one, make money. My second goal for 2025, I really want to make a Unity course. I previously tried to make a Unity course and I posted it up on YouTube. It didn't get a lot of traction, but also I could be getting the timeline wrong. A week after I posted that video, the set of videos, the whole Unity drama happened. So I ended up just not continuing that course because nobody wants to learn Unity anymore. And it feels weird to make a course about a platform. It seemed like at the time, like it was gonna die. Like it was like genuinely really bad, you know? I didn't continue. And also the videos didn't get a lot of traction either. I think maybe YouTube isn't the platform to share that type of content on, because I really went in depth, and there was like one video where I spent like 15 minutes talking about one piece of code just because I get it towards beginners, and beginners don't know how to code because they're beginners. I felt like a lot of it was really dry. And then the project that we were working on was also kind of boring. It was like a text adventure. So it was like a really simple, small project. I think I have to rethink what kind of project I make and then maybe put it up on a different platform. But I really do want to make a Unity course. And now, especially since Unity basically did a 180 pivot on like everything, I would feel comfortable continuing to make a Unity course or like some sort of game development course, you know. In terms of games, I'm hoping to release 2 games, and I'm not talking about on Itch. I mean like Steam games in 2025. 2 Steam games on like 3 years you haven't released any. How are you going to release 2 in 1 year? Well, one of them I've already been working on since for months now. It's been really slow progress, inconsistent progress. I think when we were actually working on it, the progress was actually pretty good, but super inconsistent. And I think that was just because of me just saying like, hey, I wanted to step back to work on this. I wanted to step back to work on that. And Kobe Dev, the person who I'm working on with, he was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And he was also in college, so that took out some time also. But we have made progress on it. We're just about to leave the alpha stage of the project, and we're about to get ready to get into beta. So we are looking for playtesters. If you want to be a playtester for my games, I'll put a link below. If you want to sign up to be a playtester, we're going to be polishing for a little bit, making content for it, actually. It is a really art-focused project. So I really hope that this game will help me improve in that aspect. Like, I'm not great at art, so I hope that this project will help increase my ability in art. This is part of my other plan for 2025 is I really want to focus on getting better at art. I think I'm a pretty good programmer now. Programming really is just one aspect of game development. And if you just know how to program and you're a solo game dev, you're missing essentially like half of your entire project, because art is also a really significant portion. Some people would say, I think I would even agree with this, that art is more important than programming. If I were to put my art skills on a scale from 1 to 10, I think it would be around a 2 or a 3. You know, I don't feel comfortable making art, and I do want to make games. And I think me not being able to make art, I think is a really big hindrance. My goal for the end of 2025 is that the last day of 2025, I will feel comfortable calling myself an artist. Second game, I actually don't want to talk about until I make some progress in it, because I feel like I tend to get really excited about an idea and go like, I have this idea, and then like share it and then end up not working on it. But I will say the game that I have planned for 2025, I think could be revolutionary for the indie game scene, specifically and especially for small creators. I don't know if that's true, but I'm just saying, I feel like I have not seen anybody do this, so that could either be a good thing or a bad thing. I think when you think about genius ideas, the reason why they're genius is because they seem so obvious, but nobody has done them, you know? I feel like this idea sort of fits in that category. I did talk to somebody, to another developer about this idea. Somehow, you know, after I told him my idea, he was like, oh, I was actually thinking about doing that same thing. Okay, just so happened to think of the same idea. Interesting. Around the same time? Sure. Comment, Keith. I'm hoping when I share it that other people actually do take the idea. I think this could be the reason why you get a lot of really great experiences if the idea catches on. I've seen some people skirt around with this idea, but not really the way that I'm envisioning it. And I feel like when I post that first video, people are going to say like, oh, this game, like there's this one specific game that I'm thinking about, but that game did it differently, where they did this idea with the intent of doing this idea. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like this idea really works because you're not trying to do this idea. I don't know if that makes sense. It probably doesn't make sense. But when I make that video, I will address that. Hopefully, the reason why I don't see it is because nobody else has thought about it, and not because people have tried it and it failed. Hopefully. I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys are excited for 2025. I'm interested to hear what your guys' plans are for 2025 also. Yeah, I feel like pretty excited about 2025. And also, I feel like I haven't felt this excited about game development in a while. I just feel really reinvigorated with everything that I have planned. So excited. I'll catch you guys next year. I don't know if I'm gonna post this in 2025 or 2024, but right now it's 2024. So hopefully, you know, I'm not saying I'll see you guys next year and then I post